Have you ever walked dogs before? Maybe dog walking was one of your first childhood businesses? What if I told you that someone makes millions walking dogs? More on that right after this. What's going on? My name is Matthew Osborne. I'm happy you're joining me today because today we're diving into a dog walking business started by Britt Alwerud that made millions. If you're curious if someone in their 20s could make millions from walking dogs, you'll want to stick around for this interview. This interview is from a podcast I started back in 2016 called The Young and Elite, where I interviewed successful entrepreneurs under the age of 30 to figure out the things they were doing that led to their success so early on in life. Then we figure out how you and I can take those same principles and apply them to our lives to be more successful in life and business. If this sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe below to be updated when future videos go live. Now, without further ado, here is the interview with Britt.
Young and Elite, Episode 5.
Welcome to the Young and Elite Podcast, where your host, Matt Osborne, interviews the world's most elite entrepreneurs under the age of 30. Learn how to become self-employed, gain financial freedom, and live a life on your terms while you're still young. If you want to join the ranks of the Young and Elite, keep listening because it all starts now.
Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of the Young and Elite Podcast, the show that interviews entrepreneurs under the age of 30. Our guest today has made millions by, wait for it, walking dogs. Before we get into the impressive bio, Britt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Matthew?
I am doing excellent. Britt started her first business at age 19 walking dogs. After building and growing her successful dog walking business that has made millions over the course of its existence, Britt set out to help busy business owners manage their time and grow their businesses with her new company, Handler. Britt, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Well, I live in Los Angeles, California, and I am the founder of Handler, which is mobile business apps for service-based businesses. So I started it because I own a dog walking agency in San Diego called Dogs Energy, and we have about 10 dog walkers right now who take care of about 300 dogs per week, and it was really tough to manage it all. So for years I tried to find kind of business software that would solve all my problems as far as how to manage my fleet of dog walkers, how to make sure that my customers and myself can trust that the dogs are getting out, that the dogs are walking the full amount of time, and that they're being really well taken care of. And when Uber and some of these other apps came out, I thought, oh my gosh, I want this to manage my business. How great would it be to have that sort of mobile technology? Definitely. So that's when I decided to build it.
Alrighty, so walk us through a little bit how you started your first business, which was walking dogs, and how because a lot of people I think have walked dogs in their time, but very few people have created the success they have with that type of business. So how did you get that from a normal dog walking business to what you did? And then how did you get into that next business that you had?
I really, really missed my animals, my dogs, when I went to college. And I grew up on a ranch, and all my dogs were running free, and they were really, really happy, balanced dogs. And when I went to UCSD, I was in the dorm room, and I really missed my dogs so much that I decided to start walking other people's dogs to make some extra cash. And because I was really independent, and I didn't want to lean on my parents and have them support me anymore. At 19 years old, I wanted to be completely self-sufficient. So I filled two needs of mine, which was being able to have a dog when I couldn't, and also being able to, afford living in San Diego. So then I started walking dogs, and it just kind of grew from there, and it just snowballed because of word of mouth, because I just love the dogs so much, but I also love my clients so much.
So walking dogs is inherently kind of a trading time for money thing, because you can only handle so many dogs. And so I think that's why most people fail to actually grow a dog walking business. How did you get past that? Did you get more leashes, or did you figure out a different way to go about that?
Well, at one point I was taking care of 20 to 30 dogs in a day all by myself. So yes, that's a lot of leashes and a lot of dog poop. So I at one point I was taking 10 dogs and walking them through the streets of La Jolla, and they were all very, very well behaved, and it was great. But I was getting so burned out, and I just was thinking, gosh, I just love taking care of these dogs, but I need to also take care of myself. And so after walking, 30 dogs in a day, I would get home and then I'd have to take care of the business side of things. And that was getting back to client requests and managing my schedule for the next day, doing the invoicing, and then chasing customers for payment because they'd forget to leave a check for months and months. So I was getting so burned out by the running the business aspect of it that's when I decided things needed to change. And there was a moment where I was so exhausted and I was eating all of my meals in my car because I was running from this appointment to that appointment that I literally ran into the back of a trash truck. And I could have killed myself.
Ooh.
I could have killed someone else. I mean, it was one of those moments where I went and I said, you know what? Something has to change. I can't keep doing this and running myself ragged. And also my business was suffering from it because I didn't have time to get all the invoicing done. And I never wanted to say no to a client. I always wanted to say yes so that I can make their life easier. So then another client, she came up to me one day. I gave her an invoice for about 2 months worth of dog walking, and she was just so upset. She goes, Brittany, you can't give me an invoice for 2 months of dog walking. My husband's going to kill me. And she was also a very prominent businesswoman in the community. And she said to me, you know what, Brittany, you're just a dog walker. You're not a businesswoman. And that's when I went, oh my God, okay, now things really have to change. This all happened in the course of a few weeks. So then that's when I decided I was going to be the best dog walker in all of San Diego, but also I was going to be the best business owner that I could be. And that's when I started figuring out ways to use software and systems and put my business kind of on autopilot so that I could focus on the clients and also focus on building a team to help me.
So what did that process look like for you to start creating those internal business processes that would help you out and help automate things? Did you just go out and start reading a lot of books by people you trusted and try and learn from that? Was it a lot of Google searches or just sitting down and figuring out what's been working and what hasn't been?
Great question. It was all of the above. I started reading as many business books as I could. I read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and that book changed my life. It's The E-Myth, and it was all about what's the difference between working in your business and working on your business, and how you can create those systems by using employee handbooks and manuals and doing things consistently the same time every time doing the same thing. And this was super helpful because then I realized, well, if I have these systems and if my clients can expect the same thing from my dog walkers as they have with me, then that means that I can replicate myself basically. And also that's how franchises operate. So there's a big difference between working in your business and working on it. And then also Google searches. Yes, I was desperately looking for business software that would handle everything that I needed it to do, which was automating the scheduling because it was taking me a few hours every night to manage. And then also being able to keep track of my customers. I wanted to also know what their satisfaction rating was. I wanted to see if they were happy with my performance, my dog walker's performance. And then I also wanted to get paid right away upon checkout of the job. So Google is your best friend. And then also my clients. So my clients were really, really beneficial to helping me take my business to the next level. I wasn't afraid to tell them what I was struggling with. And a lot of them were very successful business owners themselves. So they helped me tremendously.
So talk to us a little bit about what your first streams of revenue were in the business and what your current streams were. How did you initially start getting those customers to do dog walking for, and then how did you kind of grow that revenue from there?
So it started out where I was walking dogs for a half hour or an hour, and I would charge. Gosh, I started my pricing has increased throughout the years as we've become more professional and offered higher end service. But so basically, we were charging about $20 for a half hour and $30 for an hour. And then a big thing that really owed to the success of growing the company was offering a discount for recurring services. I'm all about the monthly recurring services. They are godsend. So instead of having to go and sell to your client every month, or every Sunday, a lot of dog walkers, they call up all their clients and say, what dog walking do you want for the week? Instead, I offer my clients, if they sign up 3 or 4 times per week or more, or 3 or more times per week, that they get a 15% discount going forward. So it really kind of, it's good for the dogs because they get out consistently and they're happier. And then it's also good for our business because we're able to set up those recurring schedules.
Definitely. You had mentioned a couple times you have other people walking dogs as well. When did you hire that first employee? When did you know you could take that step and hire someone else to help you out with the business? Was that early on or was it a little bit later on down the road?
It was later on down the road. And I really highly recommend that new entrepreneurs, they wear all the hats in their new business because you really need to figure out what your model is and, the type of service that you're going to provide and how you're going to do things. So I probably for about 3 or 4 years, I did it all on my own. And I probably should have, I really should have brought people on and trusted them early on, but I was really young when I started the business. I was 19, and I really didn't know what I was doing as far as setting up a legal business and insurance and how to protect myself in case something happened to one of my dog walkers. So there were a lot of hoops that I needed to go through and experience in order to get my business set up professionally. And once I did that, then I brought on my first person. And a lot of dog walkers and pet sitters, they're also really nervous and scared about bringing on that first person because there's a lot of what ifs or unknowns. But if you tackle the things that you're most scared of, then you'll be able to move forward. And I was afraid that they would steal my clients. I was afraid my clients wouldn't like them. And that's where the technology really comes into place too, because I was able to, with Handler, my dog walkers, they have an app and my customers have an app. And then I have my dashboard, my app. And so I'm able to see everything that's going on. There's a 3-way chat between my customer, my dog walkers, and myself. And this way all the phone numbers are hidden too, so they can't go and cut me out of the conversation, but they can still communicate. And then also the payments, so the dog walker goes and checks into the client's home, and that notifies myself and my client, so they know their dog is getting taken care of. Then it GPS tracks them, and then as soon as they check out, then the client gets a notification, I get a notification, and it automatically charges their card. So now my dog walkers aren't handling funds either, because you really need to make sure that you trust your people. And if you're second guessing them, like, oh, where did that check disappear to, or that cash? You don't want to have to deal with those kind of conversations. So there's a lot of things that came into place in order to bring on my team that came first and that were really, really beneficial to the success of scaling and growing the business.
So the app that you're mentioning, is that your actual Handler app or is that a different app you made specifically just for the dog walking business?
Yeah, the Handler app is what I built for my dog walking agency. So when Uber and all of these other apps came out, that's when I said, gosh, if only I could use that for my business. So I built it kind of for my business first, but then made it so that it was really customizable for any type of service-based business that goes to people's homes and provides services. So it's all based off of a schedule, and it's also based off of being able to take those payments and GPS track and give your fleet of people who are going to people's homes their scheduled appointments and be able to track them. So I couldn't build Handler just for Dogs Energy because as a small business, there's no way that I would be able to cover those costs of building it and running it. So that's why I decided to create a platform so that other small business owners and entrepreneurs can plug their services into it, plug their employees or contractors into it, and then also be able to use it and scale their business.
How did you go about creating the Handler app? Apps are notoriously really expensive to build initially and everything, but a lot of people have great ideas for apps. What was your process going about building that?
So it wasn't easy to find the right person to build it, but I found an incredible partner who they built HBO Go and Thomson Reuters app and e-news. I mean, they're doing big time apps for big time companies. And, I kind of had to beg them to take me on as a small startup. And I gave them some ownership of my company in order to do it. But I knew that, I wanted to make Handler a household name, which means we really need to be able to scale it. And I have also heard horror stories of people hiring a technology person, and then they pay all this money and then the person ghosts and just leaves, and you're left with no money and no app, or they get overwhelmed, or maybe they're not as skilled as they should be, and then the app crashes. And when you're dealing with mission critical business operations, you can't mess around. So that's why I went big.
I love everything you're saying right now. It's all pure gold as far as building a business and just the way you went about it. Like you said at the very beginning, when you were stuck, you didn't know what else to do, you were doing it all yourself, to learning, growing that business, going from there, creating an app, and then expanding that. That's just a beautiful example of what you can accomplish when you set your mind to it and when you take the time to learn and figure out how to develop those processes in your business. So what's a piece of advice you'd give to someone that wants to do what you do and wants to replicate the success that you have?
I think that a lot of young people, they kind of set out saying, I want to be an entrepreneur, but you have to make sure, like I never set out saying that I wanted to be a business owner or an entrepreneur. I just looked for people's needs and solutions to problems. So if you approach life with, gosh, this is really inefficient, or how can I make people's lives easier? How can I automate this and save people tons of hours, because time is money. And if you go out into the world like that, it opens you up to a whole host of possibilities. And before you know it, you will create that business and you will become the entrepreneur because you are solving people's problems.
Definitely have a focus and a care for the customers you're serving. You'll always find that success there. I completely agree with that. So what's one habit that you'd recommend the Young and Elite listeners implement into their lives?
I would say I guess it piggybacks off of what I was just saying about searching for solutions. And it's also automating as much of your life and your business as possible. So I have a habit of creating systems and processes for everything. And I really like Trello. That's a great piece of software that you can use to kind of organize and automate your life and make it easier to manage your daily operations. So make sure that it's easy to collect payment from your clients. Make sure that it's easy to schedule yourself and see a roadmap for your success. I would say automation, because then you have more time to go and play as hard as you work.
I absolutely love Trello. I use that in my day job. I use it for the podcast. I don't think I could live without Trello. So I definitely recommend any listeners that haven't ever tried that out, go check out Trello and see if maybe that could work to help manage your daily tasks. I want to bounce back to something you kind of just talked about, but something you'd mentioned earlier is about finding those solutions. I like how you said you were Googling all over the place for a one-stop shop software that could handle all this stuff for you, and you couldn't find it, and later on you said, hey, I just created it. And I think it's a really important lesson to learn. If you're ever looking around for something like this has to exist and you can't find it anywhere, don't just get frustrated and give up. Think, hey, maybe could I be the one that develops this and brings this to the market? Because right then you found a problem, and then you can go out and solve that problem. And so I really like that example that you had done in your own business about building the solution that you wanted. So this next question is a little bit of an analogy and a fun question, but I also think it's one of the most important questions to give the young and elite listeners that are listening some ideas of how to start a business. So here's the analogy. You have a shoestring budget, you're working full-time, but you want to become self-employed within the next year. What business would you start, and how would you start it?
Well, I know that this sounds like a shameless plug, but honestly, I would go to Handler, and I would start. Gosh, Handler is just a ready-to-go business model. You could become a dog walker. You could open up a dog walking business on Handler. You could start a house cleaning agency, car detailing agency, window washing. There's just so many services that you can provide where you have zero capital. And with that sweat equity, before you know it, you can have a thriving business and you can be making $1 million a year, just making your customers happy.
That's a great piece of advice. So how can they get to the Handler app? Did they search that in the App Store? Is that online? What do they need to go about to do that?
Yeah, for customers who are looking to handle their busy lives. So for, you meet anyone who needs to find a dog walker, dog groomer, house cleaner, you can go to the Handler app in the App Store or Google Play, and that's Handlr. And you can, in just a few taps, book any of those services and track them and pay for them. But if you want to start a business on Handler or automate your existing business, then you can go to myhandler.com. That's myhandlr.com, and go to apply now. And if you want any advice or any help, I love working with my Handler partners and helping them grow their business.
That's awesome. All right, well, it is time for the rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 6 questions in rapid succession, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, what is one goal you are trying to reach right now?
I am trying to get 100,000 Handler app users in the next 6 months.
What are you currently at as far as app users go?
We're over 1,000.
Nice, ambitious goal. What is your favorite app or software that you would recommend?
Trello and Handler.
What is your morning routine?
I don't really have one. I know that's really weird, and most entrepreneurs do have these amazing morning routines, but I just do what needs to get done. If I roll out of bed and I have a million emails to get to, then I'm going to do that first. If I don't, then I'll maybe go ride my horse on a trail ride or snuggle with my animals, and then I'll get to it. So, unfortunately, nothing too glamorous.
What is one book that you would recommend to the young and elite listeners?
The E-Myth, and also Scrum, which is how to do twice the work in half the time.
You said that was called Scrum?
It's how to do double the work in half the time, and it's called Scrum. That book changed my life and teaches you the agile method of project management.
I will have to check that out. I haven't heard of that before. All right, so
you'll love it.
I'm sure I would. Here's a fun question for you. So you have $100,000. You can't spend it on your current business, and you can't start a new business with it. What would you buy?
Oh. I can't spend it on a business? That is a trick question.
It is a trick question. It's all entrepreneurs. Everyone wants to start a business with it. You have to mix it up a little bit.
Oh, well, you know what? I think that I would go and open up a horse rescue sanctuary in I don't know. Yeah, I would do that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It does sound like a lot of fun. All right, so for the last question of the rapid fire round, is there any plug for your business that you'd like to share with the young and elite listeners?
I would say that if you would like to join Handler, go ahead and apply at myhandler.com. And I'd also be more than happy to answer any of your questions about, how to get started, how to make those first steps in starting your business. I wish that I had somebody who would just kind of give me that nudge to make those things happen faster. And so I'd be happy to do that for your listeners. And you can reach me at Britt, BRITT, at myhandler.com.
All right, Britt. Well, thank you for dropping some amazing value and insight today. I know I appreciate it, and the listeners do as well. And to close out this awesome interview, I have 2 last questions for you. Who are you, and how are you feeling?
My name's Britt, and I'm feeling young and elite.
And that is the interview with Britt Alwerud. Thank you very much for coming here. More interviews just like this will be dropping every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. EST. Subscribe below to be notified when those are released, and I hope to see you guys there.